Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. Most of the time today we'll spend with your questions about pronunciation of words, accent patterns, whatever you've been noticing in your speech in English that you need a little help with. Feel free to ask those questions in the chat at any time. And if you're watching this as a replay, you can leave a question in the comments. I'll get back to you with resources for an answer, or I'll add your request to my list to cover in future Word of the Day classes. At the start of class today, I want to talk a little bit about one of the interesting spelling patterns we have in English. And of course, spelling in English is challenging because we have letters that can say lots of different sounds, and we also spell the same sounds lots of different ways. So today I want to look at the letters GH when they come at the end of the word and talk about some patterns that you can look for that will help you with some of these types of words. So first of all, when we have IGH in the middle or the ends of a word, like sigh or night, we usually say this vowel as the I sound. So it's the I diphthong. The other ways we spell that are with an I in the word and an E at the end, like the word like. The E makes the I say its name. So the I diphthong is also in the word I, or this word I. And so when you see these letters, you can usually count on them sounding like I. I often use this spelling for the I diphthong because the letter I doesn't always say I. So that's one of the patterns I want to talk about. And then looking at when we have OUGH, it's a little more complicated, especially with the different common words. So OUGH can say aw, like in thought. That's what I thought. And that's vowel aw. The symbol for it in the IPA and in the dictionary it looks like that. So I think of aw, I often think of it as AW, and that's how I spell it because it's in words like saw and law. We spell aw lots of different ways, but one of the things that we have for OUGH is the aw vowel. Another sound we have for OUGH is the O sound, and that's in words like though. That's a little less common, so it's more often going to be the ah or the uff that we'll talk about in just a moment. But in the word though, and probably a few other words, we have the O diphthong, which is like the word O. The IPA for that is this. We also just spell that with letter O, like in no. So when you think about though, you could visualize it like that, and people probably do actually abbreviate it that way in texts and other casual messages. And then for thought, I would also probably visualize that as an AW. That can help you make sense of this confusing OUGH spelling. And then we also have OUGH saying the uff sound, which is a schwa, and then the GH is saying the f sound, and that, for example, is in a word like enough or tough. And again, I could rewrite that like a U with two F's, tough. That might help me visualize what this OUGH is supposed to say, that it's an and a f sound. So even though alternate spelling is not the ideal solution because we don't have completely consistent spelling, I do think having a way that works for you of visualizing it, whether it's using the IPA symbols or respelling it in your mind with letters that make more sense to you, it's a good way to break down these kinds of patterns like IGH and especially OUGH, which has multiple sounds. That way I can also remember I saw it, I thought it, I said no, although, and it was tough enough. Just thinking about that, pairing those words and having an alternate spelling can be really useful. And then lastly, EIGH, like in 8 or wait, says the A diphthong, we also do spell that with AI or AY. So I might think about the word say or weigh. I ate way too much. They say you ate and gained weight. Whatever will help you to, again, visualize that these letters say these sounds. So they don't necessarily, in this case, well, we do have way without the T as well. So this way and this way, same pronunciation. Okay, so we've been slowly working our way through sounds and letters in some of these classes, as well as in my videos on the channel. In our Sounds of English course, we break down all of the different sounds of English and show you different ways they're spelled, what common words they're in. So that's also a really great resource when you're looking to understand American English spelling and build some skills for pronunciation and being able to use the dictionary, use symbols to understand sounds. When you have that foundation, it's so much easier to pronounce whatever word you want. You kind of remove some of the pieces that come for the struggle with pronunciation from spelling. Of course, there's always a struggle with some sounds being more difficult, with accent error patterns, etc. But at least this piece of spelling and sounds with some work and knowledge, it can really be a strong guide and a strong foundation for you. So do check out our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com, as well as keep checking in here with these classes and our daily videos on the channel to help support you. Okay, thank you. I will now turn to your questions, and it's nice to see so many of you here this morning. Do feel free to leave your questions at any time. Even if you're watching this as a replay, I'll come back and review those questions and get you answers later on as well. So we have a question about a name, Heckler and Koch. So Heckler, the first E is an eh vowel, like in red tent. So we have the first syllable stress. The CK says the k sound, and then we just have the lur ending. So just thinking about it, it's pretty straightforward. I would think about it like Heckler with first syllable stress. And then this name Koch looks kind of weird, kind of strange spelling. It's the O vowel, the O diphthong, and both the K and the CH say the K sound. It's actually the same as the brand name Coke, so that might be a way to think about how to pronounce that. And then we have a question about difficulty in understanding sounds. Yes, so again, when we're talking about a sound, we have what's called a phoneme in English, which is one sound. So for example, I could have a word like cat that has 3 letters and 3 sounds. The first sound in cat, k, is represented like this in IPA. The second sound, ah, is this symbol, and the last sound is this symbol. But I can also have a word like we were just talking about, like though there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters, but we have only 3 sounds. We have the th sound, that's a symbol for that. We have the O sound, which it's 2 symbols, but they're together just like this. Well, this is a different, slightly different. Anyway, this is a diphthong. It's a sliding sound, but it's 1 sound. And then, I actually only have 2 sounds, even though we have 6 letters. So though has th and o, even though it has all that spelling. So when you start to listen and think about sounds and words versus thinking about how they're spelled, it is a challenging process, but it's really worth your time. Even a native English speaker if you showed them this word and asked them how many sounds there were in it, they would have to think about it for a while, and they don't just automatically know this information. Oftentimes, second language learners, and especially those of you who have been following my channel and my videos, you know more than native speakers do about pronunciation and sounds. So be patient as you try to work on that. Let me know if you have a more specific question than that. Okay. We have a question about the zh sound, as in usually, decision, and visual. Yes, so this sound zh, which I sometimes write as zh, can be difficult to pronounce. What I would say is my first strategy is to work on the sh sound, because that sound is made the exact same way in the mouth as the zh sound. It's just with zh, I have my voice vibrating, and sh, I don't. So if this sound also gives you trouble, you may need to work on the general area of these sounds. What I usually try to teach when I'm working with a client who has challenges with the zh sound, first of all, is to recognize where it is. So like you said, in usual or visual, it has different spellings. Sometimes it's an SU, decision, the SION, indecision. So recognizing where it happens. Sounds like you have that part down, but it's more a challenge to pronounce it. So what I would look at is that we have the s sound, where the tongue is close to the back of the teeth and the air is skinny coming out. Then we have the sh sound. The difference here, s, my tongue is forward, and then sh, my tongue is further back. The back of my tongue is more lifted, and my lips might be a little bit rounded. More air comes out. So practicing on words like see and she, really feeling that placement of the sh sound. The same thing is true for the z sound and the zh sound. So for z, my tongue is further forward. My jaw is not open. There's a very narrow opening. Zzz, my tongue kind of fills up the front of my mouth. But then if I go from z to zh, the tip of my tongue goes down. It pulls back a little bit. The back of my tongue lifts. There's a wider opening. Zzz, zh, and that's where that zh sound comes out. Another place to examine is the ch sound and the j sound. People have trouble between these two. What happens here with ch and j is that my tongue starts in the position it is for T or D, so up behind the back of my teeth, and it drops down into this SH or j position. So when I say ch, the sound can't continue. When I say sh and z, the sound can continue. And here, ch, I'm just dropping from the T down with the tongue full back and wide air coming out. So same thing here for the j. I'm stopping there and then releasing it in an affricate burst with my tongue in the j position. So if you have trouble between j and j, this one doesn't continue and this one continues. So learning all of these sounds and the comparison, figuring out what you tend to sound like when you're trying to do j. Maybe you sound like sh, maybe you sound like j, or you sound like z. These all are interrelated, and when you have an error on one, working on all of them can really help you. So my Sounds of English course is going to walk you through all of these different sounds and really build the skills for j as well as the similar sounds, as well as your understanding of it. So that was a, quick 3-5 minute tutorial on it. I do have more videos here on YouTube as well for these sounds that you could check out that might be useful for you. But going a little more in depth and understanding that whole category of sounds might be useful for you if you're struggling with that j sound. Great question. Thank you so much. I'm happy to talk about those types of details. Okay, we have a question about the word Bucharest. So this is the American way of pronouncing it. It's going to be obviously different in Hungarian or in other languages. So Bucharest, we tend to say first syllable stress with the ough vowel. The ch we say as a k, and then the schwa we say as an and then Bucharest, we do an sound there, Bucharest. So Bucharest, first syllable stress. Now this is maybe the old way. Maybe we've started to get closer to pronouncing it the way it's pronounced in the country. It's definitely the trend now to start to be a little bit better about staying closer to the original language and the original pronunciation of place names. You can see more about that in my playlist for names, place names, and brand names. I typically try to do some really good research on any foreign city name, country name, or place name before I make a video on it. So obviously I didn't do that with this, just being asked spontaneously. So if that's something that you want to know a little more detail about, we can look into that in another video. Okay, we have a question about, is the schwa sound influenced by the adjacent letters? So I would say not really. There are, of course, two schwa sounds. So we have the unstressed schwa, like the letter A and above, and the stressed schwa, like the letter O and above. So the thing that I will say about schwa is that this one is going to be short and this one's going to be longer and clearer above. So this one's a reduced vowel and this one's a clear vowel. This reduced vowel may get a little bit influenced by where it is and the other sounds in a word because it's so fast and short. So for example, in a word like nation, this shun, I'm thinking maybe my schwa might be a little higher because the sh and the n are forward and the n is lifted in the mouth. So I might not say nation with so much sound like in above. It might be a little bit more like nation, shun, or like very little vowel there. So that, in that case, yes, some words are going to sound more like a true schwa sound for this unstressed schwa, and some may be a little bit influenced by the position of the sounds around them. But generally, when you're looking at reduced vowels, it's going to be very short and not have a lot of strong vowel sound to it. When it comes to the stressed schwa, it should generally be fairly consistent. Again, all sounds are slightly influenced by the context that they're in, and how we're going to make them may change a little bit to accommodate other sounds. So if there's an R or a TH in a word, for example, my other sounds may try to move a little bit to accommodate those, but generally your schwa is very central and very lax regardless of what word it's in. That's a really good question. Thank you so much. Okay. We have a question about law, and lawyer. Yes, I do have videos for all of these. So after class, I'll go and put some timestamps in and give you some links to some of my other videos so you can get some details on these. But let's just look at law is our ah vowel that we were talking about with the word thought, that ough. So we have ah there. Low is our o vowel. So the difference between our o and our ah, you can see that when my mouth goes to law from low, it's a little more open. So if we have our back corner here, we have our O. Our O is a gliding diphthong, and our ah is a little more open. They're both round, but O is a little tenser, low. Law, because it's a little more open, it's also a little less rounded than the O. And then we have our ah that's all the way open and not rounded, which is not in either of these words. And the confusing thing about lawyer is that it actually has the oi diphthong. So I think if you saw lawyer more like lawyer or lawyer, that might help you a lot, because the oi doesn't have the law, even though it's spelled like law, it doesn't have the sounds of law in it. So that's, I think, what's usually most confusing for people with lawyer. For oi, we start close to the ah position and we close, we glide this way. So the ah in la, no glide. The o is a diphthong and the oi is a diphthong. So lo, law, lawyer. A suggestion I always have for similar words like these is to take another word with the same vowel and use that for comparison. So just trying like no, low to keep those the same, or go, low. And then for law, trying saw, law, or caught, law. You're not going to have too much trouble between go and saw in making them different. Of course, you may have a little bit of an issue with these vowel sounds based on what sounds you have in your native language and accent error patterns, but listening for them, being able to distinguish them between different words like these can be more helpful. And then trying, for example, boy, loy, boy, lawyer might be helpful for you as well, or toy, lawyer. Because again, go and boy and saw and boy sound very different to our ears. Okay, great question. And do check out my videos for low, law, and lawyer. Also, these topics do come up in our Sounds of English course, and getting more help for each of those individual vowel sounds is likely to help you with those words that you're having trouble with. Great request. Thank you so much. Okay. Couple more quick questions, and then we're going to wrap up for today. I will be back again tomorrow with our Sunday members class, so channel members can ask their questions at any time throughout the week, and I answer them for them each week on Sundays. They can attend live and ask at the class, or they can just leave comments. So if you're interested in joining the channel, you can click the join button and learn more about that and other perks that we offer. And I'll also be back tomorrow with our free daily word of the day class. We have a question about homicide. So here our letter O is vowel ah. It's usually O is when it's in the stressed syllable is an ah sound. So thinking about that like ha. Then we will have an I or even an sound for the second syllable. And then the E makes the I say the diphthong I, makes the I say its name. So the letter C says the sound. Side. I did a mix here. So it's homicide, and in the IPA. And for how to think about it, think about homicide. Homicide. Great. And let's see. We have a question about the name Susannah. So Susannah is a little bit odd because we have two S's. And in the name Susan, we have Susan, and with first syllable stress, but in Susannah, we stress in the middle syllable za. So it sounds like Susanna. So thinking about that like Suza, black cat vowel, and na, Susannah. Other places they might say Susannah. Typically for American English, Susannah. Anytime you're talking about someone's name, it's always best to ask that particular person, because we have conventional pronunciation of names, and then sometimes people will have the same spelling as a conventional pronunciation, but they personally may have a slightly different pronunciation for the name. It's fairly consistent though. Most typically you're going to have one pronunciation for certain names. But again, it's all, when you go to the source, you can get help for it. And I know sometimes it's embarrassing to ask someone how to pronounce their name, but it's worth the time to try to get it right. And you can also just tell them, am I saying your name correctly? Here's what I think it is. And people generally are pretty accommodating when it comes to explaining and helping you say their names correctly. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for the great questions today. And we'll continue talking about this topic of spelling versus sounds, because of course it is a big issue when pronouncing English. We did recently cover some of the basic spelling rules of English, looking at what you can count on, like in, we were just talking about how letter O can say the ah sound most typically in a stressed syllable. So we'll continue with this topic. Keep leaving your questions and requests and comments, and I will cover your ideas and what you're looking for here on the channel. Thanks so much for those of you who have subscribed to the channel, for liking, commenting, and sharing the videos. It really does help support the channel. Do check out all of the free resources we have for you on speechmodification.com, as well as our online courses. All of the courses are either free or available for under $2, so they're a really good resource and inexpensive. Thanks everyone, and looking forward to seeing you in tomorrow's Word of the Day class, as well as next Saturday's live question and answer class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye everyone. Thanks for a great class.